Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi, and today I have another team report from the biggest regional ever, Orlando Regionals, and I am joined by two top players. I am joined first and foremost by Kyle Livinghouse. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Audie. Happy to be here.
Yeah. And so, for those who don't know you, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I started VGC in 2015 online. I went to my first event in Post World 16 Philly. Got my first breakout at 2018. That's when I debuted, and since this is my seventh regional cut with Orlando. So it's been a long ride, but happy to be here.
Mm-hmm. And I think one regional championship, is that right?
Yeah, I won Knoxville 19 as well. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and you, of course, finished top 16 at this regional. Really impressive performance with a very cool team that we'll get into shortly. First, Rob, I know you were on the channel maybe like a month and a half ago, but do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Rob McNeely. This is my third time on the channel now. I'm back with another banger. I'm happy to be here, and I hope you're doing well as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's great to have you back on. It's always a pleasure. You're my audio engineer basically, so any audio problems that you hear should be directed towards him, not me. But yeah, so let's talk about the team. And actually, I guess Rob, how did you end up doing at Orlando?
I don't really want to talk about it,
Okay,
but
cool. We won't talk about it then.
I was happy to see our prep work pay off with Kyle making top 16 because we both put a lot of effort into the team, and Kyle played a load of games with it. This was probably the most effort I have put into like a team as far as like attention to detail, as far as like EVs and selections went. So I was super happy to see it do well in some capacity, even if it wasn't me.
And that was something that I've heard from a couple other team reports, including my own team report, where multiple people use the same team, and it's such a wide open format that sometimes you hit bad matchups, or it's just such a long tournament that sometimes you low roll a little bit one too many times, and you just kind of it's just really hard to find that consistency. But it's awesome to see Kyle. You are the epitome of consistency in VGC. You consistently do so well, so it's great to see you back in top cut. And so yeah, so let's talk about how you guys built this super cool team. Um, yeah, jump right into it.
Yeah, so the original concept came to be it was a team I built probably about a month ago that Kyle used in a Nino Poke Bros tournament that it featured a lot more offensive sets. Notably, it featured a population bomb mouse, as well as a choice band Dragonite. Um, but some of the core piece, Kyle got top 16 in this one too, I think. But a lot of the core concepts here kind of stuck around. I felt really strongly about Maushold, Gholdengo, Iron Bundle, and some other hitter in some capacity being really good against what at the time was like pretty bog standard bulk stuff with like Arcanine, Iron Hands, Amoonguss, Garganical type teams. The combination of Maushold's damage output plus Iron Bundle's unrestricted stab typing plus Covert Cloak with Gholdengo, which did end up making the final build, was super, super strong at beating those builds. It was super reasonable for Gholdengo in those matchups to just plot to +6 or +4 and win the game on the spot. So that core concept I liked, but after playing some games with it and Kyle doing the tournament run with it, we decided that this kind of build was kind of mid. It was like especially the technician pop bomb Maushold was not did not have the output that we were necessarily hoping for from it. So I decided to restructure the build into what we had this weekend with a friend guard mouse, and making the team a lot more bulky, which Ed clearly was the correct way to go. I felt strongly about a core four here of Maushold, Gholdengo, Iron Bundle, Great Tusk as the same kind of thing. It was super super efficient at beating the standard bulk build with Archimungus Iron Hands. Um, Between leading Mouse Gholdengo and having Iron Bundle and Great Tusk in the back to lock up endgames, it was just super consistent and super good at winning that matchup, which we were expecting to see a lot of at Orlando Regionals. Um, and then the other two pieces ended up being matchup mons, specifically for our Trick Room Psy Spam matchup, which with the first four is very very bad. So we found our way there. For the individual mons, we can start with the Maushold. At first pretty standard Frengard Maushold with Terra Ghost to as the natural defensive Terra type for it. You can redirect away things like Choice Band Dragonite Extreme Speed. It gets a lot harder for things like Annihilate and Iron Hands to beat you because it forces a lot of guessing games. Um, and Super Fang Follow Me Protect, I feel like we've been seeing for a while. The thing of note here is Baby Doll Eyes, which I don't this move does not get used. I think we've seen it on like Gen 7 and Gen 8 Umbreon on occasion, but as far as success or like popular usage, hasn't really been anything. But it was perfect for what we wanted out of it. At first we kept Faint from the original team, um, which I liked, especially on the technician side because it did a fair amount of damage, and it broke sashes, it breaks wide guard for Make It Rain, so I thought it was natural. But after the switch to Friend Guard, I found that it was not as useful or applicable. And then we moved to Charm to kind of stack damage mitigation on top of our bulky mons like AD Dragonite, Quiver Dance Volk, that we're stacking a lot of special bulk in our setup pieces. So Charm was a natural pick to mitigate a lot of physical damage. Um, but I also found that I needed the mouse to be super bulky to be able to survive in Trick Room from like Life Orb, Terrain Boosted Expanding Force from Armourouge, which was the main calc I was going for. Um, I wasn't allowed to be max speed as a result. So, and I felt like the best use case for Charm Mouse was when you're max speed, as Dondozo cannot outrun max speed Mousehold without being jolly, I believe. And that the best use case for Charm would be to drop Dondozo to neutral attack, and you get a lot of leverage in that matchup. But I couldn't do that, so um, I at first I suggested it to Kyle as a joke, and I didn't exactly know what the move did at first. I thought it was spread. I knew it was priority, but I also thought it was spread. So I was like, this has to be broken, and we later found out that it was not spread. It was single target, but the priority is still really good when we don't have as good of a speed tier. It allows us to click it into Tailwind Pokemon. It allows us to click it under Trick Room. It ended up being really really useful, and honestly one of the better tech calls for the team. Um, so that's my thing about the Mousehold. I think we both absolutely love this set. We were like super 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 proud of it. Um, but we can move on from that. The Gholdengo is Covert Cloak Gholdengo, which we saw a little bit of success wise at Orlando. I believe Raghav ran Terra Water Plot Covert Cloak, which was also really strong, more defensive than ours because I felt like we needed Terra Steel to do damage with the way the spread looks. Um, but Covert Cloak Gholdengo is great. You can't get snarled, you can't get icy winded, you can't get salt cured. It's just really, really consistent at being able to set up and do its thing. Gholdengo is all Covert Cloak, and being a Gholdengo also was a big piece for us to beat opposing Iron Bundle. As Terra Steel Make It Rain without any sort of setup will always Oko Iron Bundle. So it was a big piece there to win that sort of mirror match without having to run speed ties. Um, the spread was copy and pasted from Maluka's Gholdengo spread from San Diego Regionals. I changed one EV. I moved 1 point out of SpDef and 1 point into special attack because I believe it was the same. It was the same damage benchmark for Iron Bundle that I was looking at. Um, so yeah, for the Iron Bundle, it's a very regular Iron Bundle. We opted for Terra Ghost instead of a stab, because for similar reasons to the Maushold, specifically it makes it pretty difficult for Iron Bundle to, sorry, it makes it difficult for Iron Hands to beat it. It can't get Drain Punch and get all its health back, so it has to get a 2-hit KO or even a 3-hit KO if you're Thunder Punch, to get over the Iron Bundle, which is super helpful for us. And we also, without it, tended to struggle with like Choice Band Dragonite Extreme Speed. So being able to opt into Terra Ghost there was it was very consistent. It was very good. Kyle can speak to how much or how little he used it. But we in team building we felt like it was the right call.
Yeah, I would say I didn't really. I think I clicked it once in the tournament, but it was much better in practice. I think it was just the matchups we hit. But I have no regrets. I didn't really want to click an offensive like an ice. I think would have been the other option for us. I didn't really need it though, so I like Ghost a lot on this team.
Mhm. And how'd you do as far as hitting Hydro Pumps go?
I went 4 out of 5. So I mean, in 12 rounds of Swiss, I was surprised I didn't have to go for more, honestly.
Mhm.
So I'll take it, and it was exactly as accurate as advertised. So we'll take it.
Yeah, I talked to some people, and people are like, yeah, like if I would do it again, I would drop Iron Bundle because I would never hit a Hydro Pump. But I think it's just such a powerful Pokemon, and it matches up so well into all the other water types that it's really hard to justify running another water type, even though it is infuriating that you have to hit that move.
Yeah, it's so hard not to use.
Mhm.
Just the fastest Pokemon in the format with unresisted stab combination and the best form of active speed control. It's so difficult to not use, even with the downside of it missing its moves. Um, for the rest of the mons, the Great Tusk is very normal. It is Jolly Tusk and not Adamant in order to outspeed a lot of slower Arcanine, which was big for the bulk matchups, as well as outspeeding opposing Gholdengo, which in that case we didn't. If we were Adamant, I felt like we would have to opt into Volk in some uncomfortable matchups against Gholdengo, just because of the ability to resist and kill it. But having Jolly Great Tusk let us outspeed and kill it, and we didn't really miss the damage fall off of being Jolly. If we wanted more damage, we could just Terra Ground. And Great Tusk has phenomenal synergy with the rest of the build. I mean, Iron Bundle Great Tusk was like our bread and butter endgame pair. We didn't really need Iron Bundle to win the early game, so we could always lock it in with Speed Control plus Sash Great Tusk as the two endgame mons, which were like super super consistent. And just being able to outspeed everything we could with the Great Tusk was the best sort of option we had available. Um, Onto I think both of our personal favorite Pokemon on the team, the Dragonite. Uh, I love Assault Vest Dragonite. AV Dragonite with Friend Guard is literally unfair. It takes no damage, especially after it sheds some of its weaknesses with Terra Flying. Dragonite's super Terra hungry, so if we're bringing it to games, we want to Terra it. So shedding the fairy weakness and shedding part of the ice weakness, as well as having the option of friend guard, meant that AV Dragonite with Maushold kind of just ran over Fluttermane and Iron Bundle, which it's all like never supposed to do. But the calcs there are genuinely ridiculous. Like Specs Fluttermane Moonblast is a 3 at KO on this. Um, we opted for Ice Spinner in the fourth move instead of anything else. Sacrificing the ability to hit Gholdengo is kind of sad, especially on an Assault Vest set that's supposed to be bulking out that kind of thing. But Ice Spinner ended up really super necessary for our Trick Room matchup. And Terraflying Terrablast is, I think, like statistically the strongest flying type move we have available, and flying is a super powerful stab in this format and the last format. So it was a super consistent piece for us. I loved using it. Um, yeah, the it was a really good mon. I believe that many people leading up to the regional were calling Dragonite overrated. So kind of a joke that Kyle and I had running throughout the regional was like, don't prepare for Dragonite. It's not good. It's
It's not good.
it's so overrated and not good. Don't
Who
prepare for it. It's
who was
not worth
calling it
it.
overrated? I don't remember hearing that at all.
I saw what was it not the Tub Takes podcast
The
that called
top
it
takes,
overrated?
yeah,
Was it
yeah,
Z?
somebody did.
Was it not the
Uh,
regional lead up to Tub Takes that called it overrated?
Ah, I don't remember saying that. You know, some people say
Okay,
crazy things, but
I
maybe
was
it was
just
one of us.
checking a couple of the receipts there.
Okay.
Um,
Um,
that is what we call wind up. So don't prepare for Dragonite. It's not
yeah.
good. It doesn't win games. It
Uh,
needs Qianpao to be good.
it was, I think, one of the most overperforming Pokemon at this regional. I think it was
It
like
def
top of
yeah,
tail with
oh yeah.
Dragonite, and Dragonite came out of nowhere and had like I think there were like 8 in Top Cut or something like that. Like it was really high usage in Top Cut, despite not being high usage in Swiss at all.
Yeah, Victory Road just released the cut rate stats for these mons. Yeah, it's there in the doc. And Dragonite, yeah, there were 58 Dragonites and 7 of them made top cut, which is a really high percentage. I believe it was the highest percentage on like this list.
I mean,
Um
the highest percentage is like Sakataka, not Sakataka. What's it called, Stinjourner, because there were 2 in one cut. But yeah,
oh
like
yeah, that is true. That is a 50% cut rate.
50% cut rate. Same with like Drifter, I think.
Massive Stonejourner overperformance.
And that's going to be on the channel
Um
at some point in the future too. So
yeah,
if you
shout out
want
to
to,
John, proud of him. Much love.
but yeah,
Um
it was like yeah, no, Dragonite came out of nowhere and had a crazy cut rate. So definitely something that we're gonna have to consider moving on in the future. And so yeah, I can think like it's just a flying types were in such high demand, right? They were not Great Tusk. Roaring Moon was everywhere this regional. It was the 6th highest usage Pokemon, and it was. I think people were using it because they thought it was the best flying type in the format, and that just so clearly isn't the case. And so it's really cool to see Dragonite just kind of take its mantle and do what it was trying to do, but better.
Yeah, and I think both sets are great. Choice Band and Assault Vest. Assault Vest was better for us, but Choice Band Terraflying is also great. That Terra Blast hits like an absolute truck. It does so much damage. And yeah, Dragonite Super came up big for both of us this weekend. And finally the Volk. This slot was a big debate for me. I was going back and forth with so many different mons. My final paste of this is like copy of times 34. Unbelievable. I was trying so many different things. I didn't know how I was gonna get there. And then Kyle picks it up and comes to me and he was just like, "Why are we not just Volk? We can just be Volk." And as such, we were Volk. It's a regular Quiver Dance set. We both found Bug Buzz to be way better than Giga Drain over the course of our prep and time playing it. Bug Buzz, it's always nice to have a single target stab that just does a lot of damage. It was really good against Psy Spam. It does massive damage to Indeedee and Armor Rouge. It is a sound move, so it goes through Dondozo sub. So getting some guaranteed damage there was always really good because Terra Water Volk was a big part of our Dondozo game plan. Getting through the early games against the more offensive Dondozo teams with Fluttermane, Iron Moth, and things like that with Mouse Volcarona was our big game plan for those, and having those boosts and guaranteed damage as the Dondozo came in was super nice to set up for us cleaning up with Iron Bundle Great Tusk. Um, the spread on this one is 155 speed to outspeed Booster Iron Bundle at +2. Um, which I don't know if that ever came up for us.
Came up for me. I did outspeed an Iron Bundle, and they like I don't know if they were ready for it when it happened, but it did help me win one game in one set. And I thought it was very good in practice, like not being able to like if you're slower, they can just icy wind you. If you're like like whether you Terra or not, they can kind of chunk you for at least a little bit of damage. It's nice to just get rid of it for mostly for the partner's sake.
Yeah, that's kind of all I've got
Mhm.
with the team building process.
Yeah, that's a really great overview of the team. Kyle, did you have anything to add about the team building and the moves and whatnot?
Yeah, I had one thing. I think it's notable that we were inner focus on Dragonite because some of them were multi-skill, and if you look at our team in general, we kind of just like don't want to be like you don't want to fake us out like ever. Like you can't really fake out the mouse if it's Terra Ghost. Same with the bundle. You don't want to fake out a Flame Body Mon. Like Gholdengo, whether it tears or not, it has Cloak to block fake out. And like with inner focus, like we basically have like five mons that you don't want to fake out, which I thought was very valuable for like an offensive team and not be slowed down by those fake outs. Thought that was like an underrated part of this team.
Hmm.
Also,
But
having five protects is a very underrated part of the team, because it'll something I've been grasping a lot in open team sheet in team building is running things that are like pretty normal, but it'll also influence player error, and protect is like a big part of that. Um, the less protects on your team, the easier it is to game plan on the spot because you can always kind of from ahead you can always kind of default into click them on that doesn't protect, it'll probably work out. But when everything can protect, you're looking at that open team sheet and you're there's a little bit of doubt in the brain when you're making decisions. So definitely, both of us probably definitely won games this way. Just people thinking we would protect our win condition and we didn't. That definitely happened to me this weekend. Um, but yeah, definitely both of those parts of the teams definitely understated, definitely underrated.
Hmm. Yeah, I think last format we talked about how protect wasn't as necessary because things weren't actually doing that much damage. You know, there weren't a ton of like big damage dealers that could OHKO your Pokemon, so you just had you could use that time to reposition. This format, especially with all the Paradox Pokemon doing so much damage, primarily with single target moves, with the ability to double tap things with like Icy Wind plus an attack, or with Acid Spray into an attack being more and more common. I think Protect was really really valuable, and it's no surprise that you guys had five Protects. Wolf I think had six Protects because he was running a Parish team. The team that I used, Top Cut, had five Protects I think, or four Protects, one of the two. Protect is a really really good move this format.
And we even saw it with the way Maluka played Series 1 with his team, too. If you watch back those VODs, he was clicking protect every single opportunity he could. And for us, something I also want to add now that I think of it, for us, something that was really great in game planning was we have all of these mons that are very good at forcing defensive terras out of our opponents, and like between Make It Rain, Iron Bundle Stab combination, Great Tusk, um, Dragonite's damage threat, like all of these things tend to contribute towards people wanting to like make that big turn play and use up a defensive Terra against us and punish us for not covering for it. But with all of these protects we have, we can get into that situation and just double protect. And then they will overcommit their defensive Terra, and then they will lose the following turns because we double protected and they got no mileage.
That definitely, I feel that that definitely happened to me too. that's a really good point and a really good reason to run protect in a format that is as offensive as this one is. Forcing defensive terrorists is in protecting on them is a very complication if they can't actually progress their board position and have to win the game by getting that one momentum swing. But yeah, so I guess on that note, do you want to talk about how you actually approached some matchups that you expected to face?
Sure, I can take this part because I did most of the play testing and a lot of the playing. So we have our doc right here, as you can see, which kind of outlines some of them. We did look at the Parish team that Justin just won. That's first up on the list. He felt good in that matchup, just leading Dragonite and just like clicking a lot of damage. And we had a lot of setup options in the back between Gholdengo and Volcarona that still felt strong depending on the brings. But because of no haze, like you can't haze away the either of our boosts on our boosting guys. At least that's what the original paste had. So we were like hoping, okay, if we play this, if it doesn't have haze, that's like a lot better for us in like a late game situation. But really, we just kind of click buttons, do a lot of damage, and get ahead. The second team we have here is, I believe, Ally VGC's like winning Nino Pokebro team, which like might have been like as close to an auto win as you can get, because they can't really stop Follow Me Nasty Plot like at all. Like they can't even like really KO the mouse. Like it takes them like 2 turns, so you kind of just plot to 4 and then you just like kill everything. Like you don't care if they go for screens because that means it's just another. Like they have no pressure with the Grimmsnarl. So if they're setting up a screen now, like we're just getting up another plot, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, definitely the tempo syncing there was on that team between like the Grimmsnarl, the Corviknight, the Gastrodon, like that, stacking all of those tempo syncs against our team where we had like a pretty undeniable nasty plot. That was a big breather moment for you during the tournament, wasn't it?
Yeah, I played a very similar team in round 10 after I lost the first 2 win-ins. And they were really tough matchups, and I was just like, I hadn't really played anything like this all day, and I was like, come on, like, where are all these teams? Like, I didn't think they were good, so I guess they lost, but like, I should play at least a couple, right? And then like I finally got rewarded in the last round with a pretty similar looking team with Gastrodon, Iron Hands, Arcanine, and Grimmsnarl, and like I literally KO'd all 4 mons with Make It Rain like in about 5 turns after plotting to +6. Like it was just absurd. Like they couldn't do anything. Like I didn't even have to play the game. It was played for me. So that was a huge reason why we brought this team. It felt very good into those types of teams.
And for what it's worth, that wasn't a bad meta call because I think that Evan or VGC Pace pulled all the teams and they found that those 6 Pokemon were the most common combination of 6 Pokemon. Which I think a lot of people took the most recent tournament winning team and tried to use it. But I don't think any of them converted into Top Cut or anything even similar to this converted into Top Cut. So, yeah, I guess I think you knocked out the last one. Actually, I think you played. Did you play Logan in the last round? Is that right? I think I saw that on Twitter.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I also played them. I played them in. I gave them their second loss. So, yeah, I think they might have been the one who was the closest to doing really well with this sort of type of team.
For sure. One right below is also pretty similar. Not really sure where we got that exact 6 from, but basically like balance. It's very similar to the other one. Like they can't really do damage. We kind of just do the same thing with Nasty Plot. So not really much to say there. The Dondozo, like the super offensive Dondozo, is at the next entry here. We have the stretchy form Tatsugiri as well. The speed boosting is like super good for us because Baby Doll like sticks. Like the attack boosting, they kind of just offsets and they don't get progress, which is like good for us. But if like they're stretchy, then like it's like mouse in the back is also valid to like beat it and sometimes. But generally, we like going mouse Volcarona. Setting up, it matches up really well into like most of what they like to lead, like the Flutter main, the bundle, like that sort of thing. We can kind of just click like protect Quiver Dance, and they can't really do too much. Like usually we have to commit a Terra, but like if they read into it and like freeze dry us, like it's still friend guard Volcarona. Like it's not taking that much, and then it's healing leftovers, and like over time we're healing a lot of it off. So it's a really good asset into like almost all Dundozo teams. And then Bundle Tusk was one of the honestly, it's the most common in the back. I mean, Rob was alluding to it earlier, but I had that in the back like maybe 70% of my games, just to clean like into any more offensive team. Like getting around the booster bundle plus the Sash Tusk, it's really hard to get through both of them. Um, the water and ice plus ground plus fighting, just so good offensively. You hit so much for super effective, and like in a 2v2 situation, like an end game, like there's just not much they can do in some spots. Like if you have the Sash available, like they can only bring you to Sash, and like they already lost their other Mon, and then it's 2v1. You can't really win. Icy Wind definitely felt the most strong there as well in that end game.
Right. I feel like so many teams were weak to Great Tusk and decided they were going to commit their Terra to beat it. But if you have it in back and they don't know that and they have to Terra or they maybe even greedily Terra earlier in the game, then yeah, they're going to be in a world of hurt when you bring it in back with speed control.
For sure, for sure. Okay, so this next one, I don't remember if that was the one with Parrish. It's another Dondozo. It's very similar game plan. It's the just the ones with the Iron Moth. Since because of Acid Spray, it becomes a little more 50-50 leading Volcarona. So we like leading Dragonite because it can live the hit with Friend Guard. So we could just start like hitting things with Terra Blast. Like it can one shot Flutterman and can one shot the Iron Moth. So that gives us really good options off the bat. And like E-Speed does almost half to the Moth as well. So that's always valuable. And then the same like Great Tusk bundle back to beat the Dondozo mode is generally pretty strong. Like they really had to keep it in the back because like we had Baby Doll Mouse in the front, and by the time they get through that, like we're gonna KO some of their Mons, and like they have to have Tatsu in the back as well. So like there's just not much flexibility for Dondozo players. So they couldn't really work around the mouse. So that was really just the mouse just really opening the like unlocking the matchup for the bundle in the back really. And if we could get a baby doll onto it, then it was just like over because like at +1 you're not really doing much damage to bundle. And if you didn't have Wave Crash, you're also not really damaging Great Tusk either. Like some are just like order up Earthquake, and like with Tusk, like you don't take much damage, and they also ignore your drops because of Unaware. So you're free to just click Headlong Rush a bunch of times, and it can help finish up that matchup.
Mm-hmm. And you alluded to Parish Dozo a couple times. I know Carson cut the regional with that. How did you feel about your matchup into that? How did that change?
We have to lead a little more offensively into it, I think. Like you don't want to let them just like protect Perish for free. So I sometimes I like pleading bundle into those, like bundle plus an attacker. Like I would even lead a bundle Iron Tusk or yeah Iron Tusk, the Great Tusk plus Iron Bundle sometimes into that because you can kind of just go after something. Something we like to do with the feint version of the team. Back when we had feint, we would just like feint the Tatsugiri, but that was kind of cheese because it was like close sheet. So we had to approach it a little more realistically for this event.
Yeah, that makes sense. What were some of the other matchups that you like expected to see pretty close? Some of these matchups seem like they're very specific. How did you choose the teams on your list?
We were looking at a lot of the Limitless tours, honestly, and a lot of what I was seeing on ladder. I probably like hyper focus on what's on ladder, like a little bit too much. So I didn't take this like this wasn't my Bible or anything. It was just like a thinking exercise above all else. And now it's like nice to reflect on now. Mm-hmm. But
and I kind of did this a week. One of the big ones was leading up to the tournament on ladder. Ndidi Arm Rouge was literally everywhere. We would play like 4 or 5 Ndidi Arm Rouge per like 7 games, and so that was a big matchup for me that I really felt like I needed to be fully prepped for, and we ended up having a pretty good matchup into it. If you want to get into that a little bit, Kyle. Yeah.
So we had like 3 really good lead spawns into it, depending on what we thought they would bring. Like if we know they're leading in DD Armor Rouge for sure, we can just lead Volcarona and Dragonite, and you kind of just click Ice Spinner, Quiver Dance, and like you don't care what they do at that point, which is like obviously really good. And like they'll lose their terrain unless they like immediately switch out and come back in. And if that's the case, like you're also allowed to just Terra Blast to Armor Rouge. And like Bug Buzz also can do a bunch of damage. If they're bulky enough to live Terra Blast, I'm not really sure on that Coke. Like you could hypothetically double like either one. But Ice Spinner is just really good. Like I was just clicking Ice Spinner QD and making them respond to that. Mouse is also good because we're EV to live one Life Orb Expanding Force from the Armor Rouge. So taking that, just getting one more Protect and one more Friend Guard turn was enough to like let Volk just kind of win. And the Leftovers was really big on Volk in that matchup as well. It would let us live like multiple Expanding Forces. And by the time they had like gotten KOs on like Mouse and done enough damage to like get rid of the Volcarona, like Trick Room would be up because we have 5 Protects. And then we would be able to usually clean with Great Tusk was the big cleaner, because a lot of the Trick Room teams like stack a bunch of ground weaks, whether it be like Torkoal, Armor Rouge, all those guys. They just like they don't really have any ground resists. So that was how we approached that matchup. But it really did depend. We have a few different ones here, but there are a lot of different DD Armor Rouge teams, and I did still like lose to one pretty badly at the event because I don't think we weren't ready for DD Armor Rouge and Dondozo at the same time on like George's team. I lost to George because you can't baby doll. He was bringing like Ndidi but not Armor Rouge, so like I couldn't lean into that game plan for that, but I couldn't baby doll the Dondozo, and I got some calls wrong. He played it super well, but that was super annoying to play around, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I guess the other matchup that you guys have on here is Talonflame Tusk, which I think was one of the standout performances. There's like four or five Talon Tusks in Top Cut. How'd you approach that?
Okay, so I actually played a Talon Tusk in top 32 when I played Stacks. So the big key in this matchup is just like setup like kind of isn't fast enough. So you kind of just have to click buttons with Dragonite, and Dragonite's really good at like you can break the Gale Wings and just extreme speed KO it as well. So like that just kind of wastes their momentum in their turns. Like if you hit it with anything like a Super Fang and then just like E-speed it the next turn, you can even ignore it a turn and then E-speed it like as Tailwind's expiring. But Dragonite behind Friend Guard would basically help it live like any hit, and it hits a lot of what are on those types of teams. Emilio's team specifically was pretty bad because it had the both Kingambit and Glamora, which like kind of both mess up Dragonite. But most of the teams that we were seeing didn't have that, so we felt good into most of the field. And that was our general plan. We would usually have like Iron Bundle and Great Tusk in the back, just like a lot of the time, because if we could outlast the Tailwind, then those two were very strong into the offensive pieces that those teams tend to have.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And this document that you sent me is super convenient. If I'm going to be using this team in the future, or for anyone who might be using the team in the future, I definitely pull this up and have this as a reference while you're laddering, because it seems like it's really comprehensive and a really good starting point. I guess another question that I have is there anything that you would change about the team now, knowing what you know now, having played through the tournament?
I don't think I would, honestly. I think it was like pretty well thought out. I think all the move selections were right. I think part of that is because we settled on it like a solid week before, which is like really early for me. Like usually I'm like the last second person to finish things. But like we were on like the last couple tweaks like a good 5-6 days before. Like we were debating Fire Terra on Tusk to like maybe take some defensive things and avoid Wisp. But I was like, okay, we're headlong rushing in close combat and we're breaking all of our defensive calcs. So really it's just for Wisp. But like we could just play around Wisp with Follow Me and our speed control. So I thought ground was more valuable there. And what was the last thing we were debating, I guess, was the Volcarona speed and bulk. We had like I think a slower one with maybe a little more defense but we then shifted it to the HP so that we could take expanding forces better. Because the heavily defensive, like physically defensive one, wasn't taking those as well. So that's why we're max HP. It does look a little weird, but it is a leftovers number. So I personally don't regret any part of the team. I think it's pretty perfect for the tournament at least.
Yeah, the team definitely had its share of things that it struggled with. I think we both kind of found that the Talonflame Tailwind matchup was extremely difficult, especially if they had like a rock like Glamora or Tyranitar.
Mm.
Tyranitar compounds because this team also kind of has a tough time beating like AV Terraflying, King Gambit, and Tyranitar, and having three rock weeks and Tyranitar generally hitting most of this team for super effective damage does not it doesn't really help us that much. It was definitely doable. We definitely kind of game planned it in a way where it was like we have to get a Super Fang off into those guys because we can beat it from 50. It's a lot harder to beat it from 100. So that was probably the biggest theory weakness we kind of had with it. But as far as decisions in our preparation, I think they were all pretty much. I think we both felt really good about it. I think it was all pretty much perfect.
And so I guess with that, let's talk about the tournament itself. And Rob, I know you said you didn't want to talk about the tournament, so I won't ask you. Um, but yeah, Kyle, tell me about your tournament run.
Okay, so my tournament run was a little crazy. Um, I think the first highlight round would have been round two, where I played Dylvan Salvanera. So that was like a surprise early. Um, Dylan had like a pretty crazy team with like Sandy Shocks, and there it is pulled up. Um, it was pretty close because of the Iron Jugulus was kind of funny, but the Snarls were just like doing the leftover chip. Like I just kept quiver dancing, so I was like at like +6 speed in special defense and like +1 special attack. I thought that was pretty funny, but it was a close one. He's a great player, so I was very happy to win that one early. That was big momentum for me to start 2-0 for sure. Um, Honestly, a lot of my rounds were just very quick 2-0s, like in the beginning. I started 6-0, or rather 7-0. Trying to think specifically if there were any great games. I think at 6-0, I played Adrian Hurley, Colding Light. That was a really close game. Uh, yeah, there's the sheet there. It was pretty difficult because of the Ndidi Armors and the Dondozo at the same time. Um, the mouse is also like very intriguing to me, but it didn't come to the game. Um, a lot of this was them leading Armorouge Dondozo, and I was just like, well, what do I do? Like, you could switch in like the Ndidi next to the Armorouge, or you could switch in the Tatsu like turn one. And like game one, like I literally double the Tatsugiri switching in because I don't want the Armorouge to set up Trick Room for free or like expanding force, and I just like lose on the spot. But the game three, I went for freeze dry close combat on the Armorouge on the exact turn at Terra Grass when it could have still protected. So I thought like it was definitely the wrong play, but it ended up working out. Um, so that's how we got to 7-0. At that point, I played a really bad game with Emilio. He trashed me. He's really good at the game, obviously. He had the King Gambit and the Glamora, which he didn't bring either of, but I was like terrified of it the entire time, and I was trying to cover for it with like reads of like, oh, the Talonflame in the last turn of Tailwind is like definitely gonna switch. So like red HP Talonflame, I went for like Super Fang Bug Buzz into the Talonflame, and it just like stayed in. It's like it's Emilio, like I could never beat him like getting that wrong to that degree. So he kind of destroyed me. Um, I kind of touched on my next round with George. Um, it was the Ndidi Armorouge with the Dondozo as well. Um, he also brought like all 6 of his mons throughout the set, which was interesting. And he kind of just was one step ahead of me the entire time. And I just thought the Ndidi blocking Baby Doll, and the Dondoza just doing too much damage early was just too much for me. And he just played it super well. Um, so at that point, I thought I was like definitely done for because I was 7-0 to 7-2. I was playing on no sleep, and I was just like I'm actually going to be like the first person to like go start 7-0 at a regional and like not cut it because I don't think that happened at San Diego either, and I don't think it happened here.
It did happen in San Diego. Sohai was 7-0
Oh, it did
7-2.
happen at San Diego.
Sohai was
Oh
7-0
yeah.
My
7-3.
my
Got 33.
my heart aches
Oh.
for him.
Yeah.
That's my roommate. That's my roommate. My heart aches for him.
Okay, okay.
Oh.
That's tough. But yeah, I thought I was going to fall into a tragic category rather of players who start 7-0 and don't cut. So I luckily in the last round we kind of touched on it as well earlier. Played the finally the first time I played like Arcanine plus Gastrodon plus all those guys. I think I only played like that might have been the only Arcanine I played all day, which like was pretty surprising. And I only played 2 Iron Hands all day, like this one and George's,
That's crazy.
which I thought we had a great matchup into. Um, but yeah, so that's how we got to cut. Barely. I guess my res was like pretty good, but it felt like I had barely made it because by that time, like everyone felt dead.
Yep.
It was very tiresome event. I was like my flight the previous, I guess the same morning landed like 1:30 a.m. So I didn't get to my hotel until 3, and I don't do that well on no sleep, so it was really killing me by the end of that. So I'm just glad that I made it to the next day, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, we
Um,
got to leave the venue at like 11:30 or something stupid like that. It was awful.
it was absurd. I'm glad we don't have to do that again.
Um,
um,
yeah, so you got to top cut in the last round. So you had probably a pretty stressful last round. And then tell me about that night. Did you do any preparation and who'd you end up playing in top 32?
I didn't really prepare at all. I like told myself I would, but then by the time I got back to my bed, I was like, yeah, no shot. And then like no lists were published, so I was like, okay, whatever, I'm going to bed.
Hmm.
Um, then I played, I believe their name is Anton.
Uh-huh.
They go by Stacks or Kokona. Um, it actually wasn't Talon Tusk. I played Talon Tusk in top 16. I know I misspoke earlier, but it was like kind of a similar dynamic with Murkrow. Like I was still leading the same Dragonite Maushold into this, and just kind of saying, okay, I can like protect Mouse turn 1 and just like start hitting things. And the only thing that can really take it is King Gambit. And if you lead King Gambit, then I'm going to Super Fang it. Like you can't stop Super Fang if you're leading King Gambit. Um, so I was pretty content with going with that. Baby Doll was also sick into their Dragonite. That came into play in our set. It was just a close game where I started with those 2 in my lead, and I think Iron Bundle and Great Tusk in the back, kind of like how we've been saying this whole time. And I don't think I really deviated from that. Actually, I did. I switched up to Gholdengo for game 3, I believe. Yeah, and it really won me this set because I saw game 2 they didn't go Gholdengo or they didn't go King Gambit, so I'm like, okay, I can get greedy. They're bringing both Murkrow and Dragonite. It was just a very close set where Protects really, it came down to a 50-50 on a Protect on the last turn of the game 3. But it was just very tense. But it just shows you how important the Protects are. Because if I didn't have them, it was just over. But they gave me a chance and a way out every single time, even when I wasn't positioning my offense efficiently.
Hmm.
But
Yeah. And then so you got to top 16, and then who'd you end up playing in the top 16?
I played Tuller Web, which was kind of a nightmare because of the Tyranitar, but our games were very close. So I remember the leads going very well. I led Gholdengo, Maushold into Talonflame, Fluttermane game 1, and I'm like, okay, I'll just protect plot turn 1, and they like Moonblast into my Maushold and Tailwinded. I was like, okay, free plot. And I got into a good position, and they got some really insane reads right over and over and over again. And the Tyranitar was just too much. And game 2 came down to this is the first time I missed Hydro Pump. I thought I looked at the team sheet. I was running out of time. I was pretty sure the Tusk was protecting, but to be able to go for plot safely, my Gholdengo, I was like, okay, like I need to click a move into this just in case it doesn't. And I looked at the team sheet. I'm like, it's Life Orb. Like technically, it could have like a little bit of bulk, and the freeze dry like won't always KO. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to click the Hydro Pump because it's going to feel really bad if I click freeze dry, and it has just a little bit of bulk because it was Life Orb. So like maybe it has the 68 HP to like reduce that with like a little bit of special defense. It wouldn't take much to make it less favorable than Hydro Pump. Because the roll on no bulk is exactly 100 is the lowest roll.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have needed just a little bit. So at that point, I was like, okay, I'm just going to click Hydro Pump. Like I didn't even know the calc. I just like felt that that probably was the case. And I asked him. He said he had no bulk, and I was like, okay. I kind of threw, but it was the first Hydro Pump I missed. It ended my run, but that's kind of how Iron Bundle goes. And I don't really regret the play too much because I think I was like my mind was in the right place. It just didn't really work out well, and he didn't protect, and then he also dodged. So it took a lot to get there, but the run ended there in top 16.
Yeah, but that's still really, really impressive performance for the team. Top 16 in the biggest regional ever, 780 players, I think, total. So a massive event. And yeah, so congratulations on your performance. I guess, Rob, did you have anything to add about the tournament experience?
Um, from me personally, no. But yeah, it was absolutely a horribly long day. I dropped after round 9, and I think I left the venue at 10:30 after showing up at 8:30. It was absolutely unreal. Everyone I talked to was like in physical pain by the back half of that day. It was unreal. Um, and yeah, like Kyle said, he didn't like we didn't really get the opportunity to prep. I got some information for him uh from somebody that Stacks played earlier in the day. But we didn't do a ton of work. Kyle was so tired. He went like straight to bed. And then like the team list didn't go up until like 3:15 in the morning, which was crazy. I hope that doesn't happen again.
We have day two Swiss,
Um,
so it doesn't really matter, huh?
yeah, we will have day 2 Swiss, so it doesn't really matter. Um, but yeah, that was definitely also something unfortunate for anybody who was like trying to seriously prep for day 2.
Mm-hmm.
The team list not going up until 3:15 was definitely rough for
Yeah.
people who wanted to sleep and also prep. Uh, but yeah, yeah, I don't really have anything else to add.
Yeah. Well, this was a really comprehensive report and a really good overview of what is one of the more unique teams in Top Cut and definitely one of the more powerful teams in Top Cut. And so I'm excited to see how this concept is developed moving forward in Oceania Internets or in Knoxville Regionals or wherever you may be playing Pokemon. And so, of course, the paste will be in the description down below, and the rental code is on screen right now, ready for you to try out. Uh, Rob, did you have any final words or shout outs that you wanted to give?
Sure, yeah. I mean, of course, shoutouts to Kyle for believing in believing what I had going on, thinking it was the call for the regional. I was super happy to see at least one of us do well with it with the amount of work that we put into it. Um, of course, shoutouts to all my friends who will end up watching this video. Love you guys very much. Shoutouts to Tom Brady. Congrats on your retirement. Um, and yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah. Kyle, did you have any final words or shout outs you wanted to give?
Sure, sure. I'll have it. I have a few. Huge shout outs to Rob for building this masterful team and working on me through it, or with me through it. It was good to. I mean, he gave me a pretty good version, and we made it perfection. I think so. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I hope we work together more in the future. I want to say shout out to Kareem and Z for some best of threes. They were very helpful, and anyone at the event that was hanging out, there were so many different people. It was just a massive event. So anyone who said hi, shout out to you guys. It made it a great event.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun despite the crazy format. I know we were hanging out a little bit on Sunday and we were both dead tired, but I had a lot of fun despite that. Um, And yeah, so that's all I got. Those are all the questions I have. Like I said, you can follow Rob and Kyle on Twitter. That'll be in the description down below as well. And of course, again, Paste and Rental are on screen. So yeah, thank you guys all for watching. And until next time, I will see you all later.